Hello.
Good morning from beautiful Chiang Mai, Thailand.
How are you?
We hope that you had an amazing Easter weekend and that your heart's full and you're happy. And we've been continuing to do our Everyday Tantra series. And as we've been working with the women here from China, then they've been asking us for daily tips. And one of the most profound and powerful for them was the power to say no. And so many people, like, I know it's one of the basics for us, especially if you've come to any of our classes, then it's what we teach. But if you're just being introduced to us, it's one of the key concepts. So we thought we'd talk about that. So the thing about no is that most of us are taught from a very early age that we don't want to disappoint others, that no is a bad word. It's actually going to hurt people's feelings. It's going to cause more disconnect rather than more connection. And that's actually the opposite. The more powerful of a no that you can find within your being, then that actually creates more connection, because that's what the opportunity for people to be able to start trusting your yes. And even more importantly, when you can trust your no, then the whole world opens up and you can really start trusting your yes. So we wanted to talk about some of the key components of being able to reframe that in your mind.
What are the key components?
You want to talk about the rejection and what rejection really is?
Well, it's in our class, we like to talk about it being redirection. So when someone says no, it's actually someone saying yes to themselves. So if you can reframe it in your mind, instead of saying, oh, this person's rejecting me, saying, no, this person's taking care of themselves. They want to do something else that is nurturing and nourishing to their body. So nobody's really rejecting you. They're just they're saying yes to themselves.
And they're redirecting you in another direction. And so if you look at it this way, imagine that Peter had a night in and he had his favorite music playing, he was watching his favorite hockey game, and he hears a knock at the door, and all of a sudden it's Anna. And Anna's like, hey Peter, let's go out and see Jamiroquai tonight, because he's only in town one night.
I'm going to probably say yes.
But see, Peter has a chance to be able to feel into his being, and is he a yes to going with Anna? And then he changes his mind about staying in that night. Or if he says no to Anna, he's actually not saying no to her or the opportunity. He's saying yes to what he'd already created for himself that night. And so the more that you can actually start feeling that in your being, then the other part that we teach at cuddle parties is when someone tells you no, say thank you for taking care of yourself, because the person's just taking care of them. And imagine what it would have been like if you were this 2 and 3-year-old child running around the house saying, no, 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 no. And instead of your parents saying, no, you have to because I told you. Instead, then they would say, thank you so much for taking care of yourself. And so it would be this whole generation of people that felt great about saying no. The second piece that we teach about no is that your no is very useful information. And so none of us feel bad about telling someone, hey, you got to make a U-turn if they ask you for directions and you know they're driving in the exact opposite way of where they want to end up. And it's the same with your no in life. So if someone asks you and says, hey, can you come and help me move this Saturday morning? And you are not feeling well, or you already had a prior commitment, or for whatever reason, you're not wanting to go and help them move that morning, then you get to sit with the stories inside of your head of, oh, I'm a bad friend, they're not going to like me, like whatever's coming up for you. But the kindest thing you can do is just say, I'm a no. Thank you for asking. And then it's very useful for your friend to know, because otherwise if you just say maybe, or you say, oh, okay, I'll be there, then one, if you do show up, then you're going to be help from hell, because you actually don't want to be there, and your friend's going to figure it out halfway through moving. And so it's so much kinder to just be able to give them the useful information from the beginning. I'm actually a no. And then they can find other people that are a hell yes to helping them move that Saturday morning.
So why do you think people are afraid to say no? Why are people afraid of, maybe you think it's hurting someone else's feelings or turning them down? Because so many people like to pad their no. Like they like to say maybe later, or come back and ask me later. Why do people can't just say no?
Because the biggest experience is, yes, they don't want to disappoint other people, or they don't want to hurt their feelings. They want to be a good friend or a good partner. But it's also because we've been taught that that's a bad thing for us. If we say no, then we feel bad inside of our being, or we feel like that we're not showing up. We've all created a value for saying yes to whatever people make requests of. And by saying yes, then you're actually being a good friend or a good partner or a good parent. And so it's actually starting to realize what defines you are your no's, so much more than your yeses. Because you have to be able to say no to all the things that you're not really longing for, you're not really wanting, to be able to create space for the things that you are. And that's the true power of no, is that when you can really give yourself permission to say no to anything, then the things that you're actually saying yes to are what matter. And you start having this whole circle of when you have a really strong boundary of no, and you're like, yeah, here's where my no is, and it's unapologetically. You're like, yeah, these are my boundaries. Then within that circle of no, everything in there is a hell yes. And so you get to experience so much yes opportunity.
I think one of my favorite lines from Cuddle Party is that you can't really trust somebody's yes until you get a powerful no. Mm-hmm. Because it's like you know where the person's boundary is, and once you know the boundary is, then you really can trust that person's yes and no.
And when you start training people around you to be able to say no, and that you're going to accept their no and celebrate their no and thank them for taking care of themselves, then that gives you the freedom to start making all the invitations in the world. Because so many of us are always in our head trying to think, are they really a yes? Are they really wanting to show up? What can I ask for so that I'm not going to overwhelm this other person? And so when the people around you are really in touch with their no, and they can say it around anything, and they know that you're just going to celebrate them, then all of a sudden you have room to start imagining what are the things that you really want to ask for that you would be afraid to if you didn't know the other person had their yes and their no. So then the playground just expands. So that's where I see that it creates more connection and not less. And then the last piece around no is just if you say no and you disappoint somebody, it's okay. They're going to be fine because we're adults now. And you're actually helping them stretch their muscles so that they realize, oh, someone says no to me, it's not the end of the world. I'm actually going to be able to take care of myself and I'll be fine. And little by little, as you start being around people that are only in their yes, they're only saying yes to the things they're really enthusiastic about, then it starts helping settle their body, so that they're not constantly walking on eggshells trying to figure out if you want to be there, if you still want to be doing this thing. If, like, how many of you have had a lover going down on you and it's taking a long time for you to come and you're just thinking, oh man, like what's happening in their head? They must be tired. Like what's going on? They must not be having fun. They're bored now. Like what's wrong with me? And the beauty is when you know that your partner can say no at any moment, and you're going to be fine. Even if you're very close to an orgasm and your partner's like, you know what, I'm all done now. I love you, let's do something else. Then imagine the freedom that it takes all of that worry out of your head. And you know that if your partner's there, they actually want to be there. And when they don't, they'll move. They'll take care of themselves, and you're not having to micromanage them. And that's the beauty of really, truly tapping into the power of your no so you can find your yes.
So what do you do with the feelings when there's something you really, really want and the person says no to you and you're really disheartened, you're disappointed, and you have these feelings of being downtrodden? Like what do you do with those feelings?
So it depends. If your partner or the person that you've asked actually has bandwidth to be able to hold you, then like that's something that Peter and I learned about halfway through our 3.5-year relationship, is that I'd come to him and I'd say, Peter, I want sex, I want sex, I want sex. He's like, I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. Or, there was another priority for him in that moment. And sex is like my number one priority. And so I'm like, how can you want to sleep when you have this willing person right here? And so it was so hard to be able to hear his no in that instance. And so what we found is that if he held me, and sometimes I was crying, sometimes I was so frustrated, sometimes I was really, really stuck in, there must be something wrong with me or Peter would just want me. And so he was able to hold me in all of the disappointment, and most of the time we did not end up going into sex, But even him just holding me for 10 minutes and all of those feelings helped the disappointment be able to move through my body. And then little by little, when we did have sex, it was amazing because that's where he really wanted to be. And there stopped being any part of me that wanted to seduce him or manipulate him or try to, gain sex from him in any other reason other than him really wanting to be there. So if you have a partner or friend that actually says no to you and they're willing to sit with you in your sadness or your disappointment, that can help you move it really quickly. But sometimes they're already working through their own no. They're barely finding their voice to be able to say no. So they don't have the bandwidth to hold your disappointment because they're already trying to figure out, oh, I've said no, I'm hurting someone's feelings. And by you telling them, wow, I'm really hurt and disappointed and I really wanted this thing, then it can actually hinder them from saying no next time. So if you're with a friend or partner like that, go find someone else in your life that's actually able to help you. Have a few people on speed dial or on Facebook Messenger that you can call and say, wow, I really opened up and I asked for this thing that I've always wanted and the person was a no. So are you willing to hold some space for me? So either way, then you can get the support. And if you have to, you can hold the space for yourself. You can go look in the mirror. You can have a tape recorder and you just sit and record all of those emotions because you don't want to hold on to it. Maybe go tell a tree. Maybe go lay at your feet with your feet in the ocean. Find a place so that you can move those emotions without being upset with that person. So that you can really reframe and change in your head. That person saying no means nothing about me. And me being disappointed that they couldn't say yes means nothing about them. And nothing about you, actually. It's just an emotion that wants to be felt. And it actually means you just really wanted that thing. So then you can get in touch with, wow, great job, Monique, for asking for the thing that you really wanted. And maybe next time, then that person or another person in my life will be a yes.
A great philosopher, Wayne Gretzky, said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Mm-hmm. So you don't know until you ask. And you're never going to know if the person is a yes if you don't ask. So you might as well have the courage and bravery to ask whatever it is you really want.
Yes.
And
so practice your no. Practice training the people around you to say no to you, that you actually want to hear a no if they're not a complete 100% yes. Because then all of you get to start up-leveling your relationships and you start getting to play in the realm of nobody's doing anything that they don't want to do, even a tiny bit. They're not showing up out of obligation or commitment. They're showing up and they're being with you in whatever way you're being because they absolutely want to.
Yeah.
So we love all of you. Just so much love from Thailand. If you've never been to Thailand, go. It's an amazing country. And we'll see you again tomorrow with whatever tip we decide to bring.
Have a happy Easter, everybody. He is risen. He is born again. We love you. Bye-bye.